ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे
वन्दे
परम्पराम्
गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ
ॐ
सहनाववतु सहनौ
सहनावतु
भुनक्तु सह
भुनक्तु
वीर्यम् कर्वावहै
करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
विद्विषावहै ॐ
विद्विषावहै
शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
शान्तिः
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय
ॐ तत्सत् ॐ
ॐ
नमः शिवाय
तत्सत् ॐ नमः शिवाय
So we had completed the Dvitiya Valli and we are now on the Tritiya Valli, which is called Bhrigu Valli. So I will request Rajini to first chant the mantra and then the Anuvaka number one.
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 भृगुर्वैवारुणिः वरुणं पितरमुपससार अधीहि भगवो ब्रह्मेति तस्मा एतत् प्रोवाच अन्नं प्राणं चक्षुश्रोत्रं मनोवाचमिति तगुंहोवाच यतो वा इमानि भूतानि जायन्ते येन जातानि जीवन्ति यत्प्रयन्त्यभिसंविशन्ति तद्विजिज्ञासस्व तद्ब्रह्मेति सतपोतप्यत सतपस्तप्त्वा. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajini. So as you can see, the Shanti mantra is the same as in the last Valli, and we commented upon it in great detail there. So I'm not going to explain again. Okay. Anybody who doesn't remember needs to get back to the opening classes of the previous Valli. Now, in this particular section on the Valli, there is an introduction by Shankaracharya to the whole Valli. Okay. And what is special about the introduction is that he summarizes the entire Brahmananda Valli in that introduction. Okay. And there is a special, aspect of that summary is that the very words of the Brahmananda Valli are used for the summarization. So since it's a very beautiful, section, I propose to actually read out the Sanskrit and then explain Sanskrit commentary of Shankaracharya. Okay. So it says Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Okay. Now you Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, but here it's not Nirguna Brahman. Why? Because he says Akashadi Karyam Annamaya Antam Srishtva. You can understand? This Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Srishtva, having created Akashadi Karyam Annamaya Antam. Right? Which means having created everything from Akasha to Annamayam to Annam. What did he do? Tad Evanu Pravishtham. So you remember the Anupravishtham Vakyams. He entered the universe. He Anupravishta, he entered the universe, which means what? He became the Jivatma. So that in that one sentence, he has covered Saguna Brahman, creating the universe, everything in the universe, from Akasha to Annam to Jivatma. And then he entered the world, therefore he became the Jivatma. And Visheshavat Eva Uvopalabhyamanam. He appears with many upadhis, Visheshavat, appears with many upadhis, as though he is a karta bhokta in multiple forms. And yasmat. However, because it is the Brahman Paramatma who appears as Jivatma, tasmat sarvakarya vilakshanam. And therefore, it's a very important idea that he created the world and he entered the world as Jivatma. And because it is the same Paramatma, the same Brahman, who is appearing as Jivatma, Tasmat Sarvakarya Vilakshanam. Tasmat, that Jivatma, Sarvakarya Vilakshanam, is different from all the other products of the world, which is the world itself. Yes. And what is this difference? Adrishyadi Dharmakam Eva. This Jivatma is actually Nirgunam by nature. And Anandam Tadevaham iti Vijaniyat. And he understands, I am the Ananda Swarupa itself. Only the Evakara. Tadevam Tadeva Ahamiti Vijaniyat. Ananda Tadeva Ahamiti. That Evakara indicates that he knows that he is only the Ananda Swarupa in essence. And Anupraveshasya Tadartatvat. The significance of the Anupravesya Vakyam is this oneness, this aikyam. So the fact that he is saying, I am Ananda Swarupa itself, this Jivatma understands that he is the Paramatma. And therefore, the Anupravesya Vakyam, what does it signify? It's a Mahavakyam. It signifies that Brahman is available in the body of the Jivatma. Brahman is the Jivatma. Brahman is available in the body, in the mind. So Anupravesha, with the normal meaning, is to enter. But here Shankara is saying Anupravesha has to be taken as availability of Brahman in the body, a mind complex of the Jivatma. And tasyaivam vijanataha. If a person understands in this manner that he is Brahman, he is the Paramatma, then Shubha Ashubha Karmani Janmantara Arambhake Nabhavataha. The Punya Karma of the past will not cause Janmantara Arambhake. Punarjanma for that person, for that jnani. That is, the karmas will get roasted. And like the roasted seed cannot produce a plant, he will no longer be born again. In this manner, this is the teaching of the Anandavalli. This is the Tatparyam. So this is what he says, right? And he says, Ataparam, after this main teaching, what is going to happen in this chapter? Brahma Vidya Sadhanam. There is the Veda, the Upanishad, the Shruti wants to focus on the sadhana required for the assimilation of this teaching. So we'll recall that in the first chapter, Sikshavalli, some of the sadhanas were mentioned. But here, tapas and upasana is going to be discussed. Right. Now, in Shankara's commentary, he doesn't talk about the tapas and upasana, but he summarizes the Panchakosha Viveka also. Okay. Right. Now we look at the first Anuvaka, which Rajniti had chanted so beautifully. Okay. First, give a brief outline. The third Valli, is divided into 10 Anuvakas. Each Anuvaka can be taken as a paragraph or a section, whichever you want to call it. And the first word of this chapter is what? Bhrigu. Anuvaka number 1, Bhrigu vai Varuni. The first word of the Valli is Bhrigu, and that is why the Valli is named Bhrigu Valli. It's the same logic as the other two chapters. Now, the teaching here is given in the form of a Guru Shishya dialogue, Guru Shishya Samvadaha. Again, a reminder to all of us that Vedanta should never be attempted in a self study format. Always learn from others, right? Now, when you say this, Do you recall who was the guru in the first or the second chapter?
it's not mentioned, Acharyaji, in the first two chapters.
It's not mentioned at all, right? Therefore, you can have two interpretations. One is that the first chapter and the second chapter is Shruti itself talking to us, speaking to us. Or there are some other commentators, sub-commentators who say that since the third chapter specifically mentions a dialogue between Varuna and Bhrigu, you can extend that to the first and the second Vallis also, second chapter also. So you can take either of these meanings. Either you can say that Varuna and Bhrigu are the Guru Shishya and all three chapters, or you can say that first two chapters is Shruti talking to us. And the second chapter, the third chapter is Varuna and Bhrigu. Varuna is the Guru and Bhrigu is the Shishya. He's the son. Okay. So Bhrigu vai Varunihi. Right. Now, Bhrigu is considered to be a very, very great rishi. And even Krishna acknowledges that Bhrigu is the greatest among the Maharishis, where
Chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga.
10.
Maharishi Nam,
Amongst the rishis, I am the Bhrigu.
Maharishi Nam, Bhriguraham.
Mhm.
Okay, that's so we should now, sort of move to remembering the Sanskrits also. Okay, now this, if you look at the Shastras, Bhrigu was born twice. First, he was born as the Manasaputra of Brahman. What's a Manasaputra? By Sankalpa alone. Like, so not Brahman. When I say Brahma, it means obviously Hiranyagarbha, Saguna Brahma. And he was present where? This Manasaputra Brahma was present where? In which story? You guys don't see TV series, is it? Okay. So he was present during the time of Daksha. That Shiva
Yes,
story is there.
the immolation of Sati.
Yes, during the time of immolation of Sati, he was present, and during Daksha Yajna, he was also destroyed. He was also killed. Right? Bhrigu also died. That Manasiputra Brahmaji, he died at that point of time. And then later he took birth as the son of Varunaha. And to differentiate, we say Varunihi. The second born Bhrigu born a second time, is Varunihi. He is not the Manasaputra. So this Bhrigu here is not the Bhrigu who was the Manasaputra. This Bhrigu is the son of Varuni, son of Varuna. Therefore, Varuni. Varuni is born out of Varuna. So Varuni, Varanam Pitaram Upasasara. So he approached his father Varunaha. Varunam, second case, approaching Varunaha. He approached his father Varunaha. And why mentioned here specifically? Because Bhrigu approaches the father for a specific purpose. And that is what is indicated by the why. Bhrigu, why Varunihi? Why is the emphasis. The why indicates an important reason that you have to supply. It doesn't say here. Important reason is that he wanted Brahma Vidya. Right? Then, what does he say? Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Hey Bhagavaha. So, oh Lord. So, again, this indicates the Shraddha and the Bhakti, right? In the Guru. Adihi, teach me Brahma iti. Teach me about Brahma. So, this is Nirguna Brahma iti. So, basically, Bhrigu approached his father and asked for Brahma Vidya. Now, the word Adihi has a very specific connotation, which we talked about in Mundaka Upanishad. Do you remember? What does Adihi mean? Strictly speaking, it doesn't mean teach me. No? Okay, I'll tell you this, but you go back to Mundaka and you see that we have had this discussion there. Adihi means please repeat loudly what you have been taught. So again, that's an indication of what? That there is a Guru Shishya Parampara. That Bhrigu knows that his father Varuna had a Guru, and therefore he was taught, and he's just saying, "Oh Lord, just repeat to me what your Guru told you." So essentially, it's an indication that the parampara doesn't deviate from teacher to teacher. The same knowledge is given, different words, different examples, but the knowledge, essence of the knowledge is always the same. Right? So Bhrigu approached his father and asked for Brahma Vidya. This is the first condition for getting Brahma Jnanam. You have to ask for it. Okay. Then, Tasma etat provacha annam pranam chakshu shrotram mano vacham iti. And Shankara adds a little bit of commentary. He says that Father Varuna vidivad upasannaya tasmai putraya said to that son Bhrigu who approached him vidivat upasannaya in the prescribed manner. And to him, to that Bhrigu, his father said, Etat vachanam provacha. He said, he spoke the following words. Annam pranam chakshuhu shrotram mano vacham iti. The Can you figure out what he's saying? Annam pranam chakshu shrotram mano vacham iti. What is he, what prakriya is he going to teach? There are very many teaching methodologies, right? You have three shariras, you have three avasthas.
Panchakosha Viveka.
He is going to teach him the Panchakosha Viveka. So Annam here represents Annamaya Kosha. Pranam represents Pranamaya Kosha. Vacham represents Karmendriyani. Sotram is a upalakshanam for the Jnanendriyani. And Manaha is the mind. Right? So mind plus Jnanendriyani is what Kosha?
Manomaya.
Manamaya Kosha. Okay. So, and Shankara says these words are basically the doors to gaining Brahma Jnana. Brahma Upalabdhau Dwarani, he calls it. These words are basically the doors to giving Brahma Jnanam. And in this manner, Panchakosha teaching was given. Right? So, Tam Hovacha, that Tam refers to Bhrigum Hovacha, Brahmana Lakshanam. He taught Bhrigu the definition of Brahman, Lakshanam. Now, when we talk about Lakshanam, two words should immediately come to mind. What are they?
Tatastha and
Swarupa.
Swarupa.
Rupa Lakshanam and Tatastha Lakshanam. Right. So both these Lakshanams of Brahman are given in this Upanishad. And that is why this particular Taitriya is considered an extremely important Upanishad because both the Lakshanams are given. And now Varuna gives the Brahma Lakshanam. Right. The Swarupa Lakshanam. What is that? Yatova imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvashanti tad vijigyasasva tad brahma iti. Okay. Okay. So, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. That is the Swarupa Lakshanam of Brahman, if you remember. Right? Where did we see that?
In the previous chapter, the
In the
previous one.
previous one, Anuvaka 1. And here, Yatova imani bhutani jayante. From that, from whom the entire universe is born. Is this Swarupa or Tatastha?
No, this is not Swarupa. Swarupa was Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. This is
And why is it Tatastha?
because this is talking of Bhutani Jayante, the creation, the Srishti.
How does it make it Tatastha? I'll give the definition of Tatastha. Tatastha literally means Tata Prastha. Stha means standing, and tata means the bank of a river. Right? Which means that
Constantly
what is
changing.
happening? Constantly changing river, and you are standing on its bank.
Yes.
What you see is not always there.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, why is Tatastha? Because the world comes and goes. Universe is born and the universe dies. And then it's born, then it dies again. So it is constantly changing. And therefore it is Tatastha Lakshanam. So Yato va Imani Bhutani, this whole mantra is Tatastha Lakshanam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma was Sarupa Lakshanam. Therefore the Upanishad carries both the Lakshanams. Right? Now this particular mantra is explained in Brahma Sutra in the second sutra. It's called Janmadasya Yataha. Anyway, Yataha, that from which this Asya world is born. So that we'll see whenever we come to Brahma Sutra.
Please repeat, Acharya.
Janmadasya Yataha. That is the second sutra of the Brahma Sutras. Yataha, that from which Asya Janmaha. That from which this whole world is born. And Adi means is sustained and uh, resolves into. Therefore, that entity, that substratum from which this world is born, sustained, and resolves into, that is called Brahman. That is the definition in Brahma Sutras. That is based on this mantra. Okay, this mantra has three roles of Saguna Brahman. What is that? Jagat Srishti, Jagat Sthiti, and Jagat Laya. Srishti Karanam, Sthiti Karanam, and Laya Karanam. All three are mentioned in this particular mantra. And therefore, this mantra is Tadhastha Lakshanam. Yato va imani bhutani jayate. Yataha means Brahmanaha. Now, bhutani can have two meanings. One can be Panchabhutani, the five elements, or one can be living beings, right? And this is Srishti Karanam. When you look at that, Shankara comments here, Imani Brahmadini Stamba Paryantani Bhutani Jayate. All these jivas, Imani Bhutan, Imani Bhutani Jayante. All these jivas are born Brahmadani Stamba Paryantani. Very famous phrase in Shastram. I'm sure you all know the meaning. What does it mean?
From Brahmaji to the blade of grass.
Grass, smallest blade of grass. Okay. Also remember, this is a grammatical thing. Okay. Supposing it is stambha,
Pillar. Inanimate.
that becomes a small inanimate thing. Okay. Two words are there, stambha, stham. So here we're talking about the living organism. And then there are many commentators who say that you can take it as Panchabhutani also. But Shankara says, I will take Jivatma. Why does Shankara take Jivatma as the meaning of Bhutani? So there is a rule for Mimamsa. I think we have talked about this earlier also. When you are studying a group of mantras, and if there is a possibility of multiple interpretation in one mantra for a particular sentence or a particular word, what should you do?
Look at the higher. Take
Context.
the higher.
Higher?
The higher scripture or the higher.
No, that's different. I'm saying within one scripture, if it is happening,
Okay.
what should we be doing? You should be looking at the contextual meaning.
Contextual meaning.
And the moment you look at context, what do you mean when you say context? You have to look at the previous mantras and the later mantras, or the later mantras, or both, right? And if you look at this, what does it say? It says, Ito va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti. Right? Jivanti is there. Jivanti is very clear. It means that which is born, that which is living. And therefore here Shankara says the Bhutani should mean that Jivas only. And Yena Jatani Jivanti. So that is the second part, because of which you are giving the contextual meaning of both of Jivas to the first part. And Yena, because of which Jatani Jivanti, all living beings are existing. The first was Srishti Karanam. Yena Imani Bhutani Jayante. From which all living beings are born. That is Srishti Karanam. Yena Jatani Jivanti. Because of which all living beings are existing. This is Sthiti Karanam. And yet Prayanti Abhisam Vishanti. Yet into which Brahman Prayanti, all these Bhutanis at the time of destruction, Pralayam. Prayanti means at the time of Pralayam. Abhisamvishanti. Abhisamvishanti means completely merge, completely dissolve, completely resolve. And therefore, Yat Prayanti Abhisamvishanti is Layakar. So, in one little mantra, he has presented all the three roles of Saguna Brahman, right? And that is why there are three names in Puranas: Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. And this Brahman has been defined as what? Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam. And remember that whenever you say Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam, there is a difference from when you say Utpatti, Karanam. What is the difference?
Utpatti Karanam uh, will be the Nimitta Karanam, and Utpatti Sthiti Laya is the material cause, the Upadana Karanam.
Right. So Utpatti Matram is Nimitta Karanam. Srishti Matram is Nimitta Karanam. But Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, which is Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam, has to be the Upadana Karanam. You can easily understand from the the what do you call, example of the ornament and the gold. Who is the Nimitta Karanam?
The goldsmith.
The goldsmith. He is not required for maintenance of the bangle, right? Otherwise, you will have to carry the goldsmith home with you. So, but gold is required for creation, for maintenance, and for destruction of the bangle. Therefore, gold is the Upadana Karanam. While the goldsmith is the Srishti Karanam. Okay, now when we say Brahman is Karanam, we have to understand that it is a Gauna Prayoga. Gauna Prayoga is a figurative usage. Right? It's like, you have this fellow who's a very important functionary in, let us say, an organization. And you say this guy is the pillar of the organization. It is Kauna Prayoga, figurative usage, right? Because he's not really a pillar, he's a living being. So, when such a usage is there, we have to look for the common features. See, I'm sure all this is common sense, okay? But since we are what you call explaining this, uh, many times what happens is that something which we intuitively arrive at, it's not intuitive. Your brain has functioned in a particular manner and has arrived at the meaning, but the entire process we don't clearly, document. So that's what I'm trying to do. How do you mean figurative usage? You have to look at what is the common feature of the two, sadharmyam as it is called, and the vaidharmyam, the uncommon features. So when you say this person is a pillar of the organization, what is the sadharmyam?
He takes the major load of the organization. The
He supports the organization just like the pillar supports the house. What is the Vaidharmyam?
He is not the inanimate pillar.
He is not the non-moving, non-living pillar. Right. So when you are looking at this kind of connection, you should ignore the Vaidharmyam part, the, the non-common part, and look at the common parts, then only you understand. And therefore, when you say Brahman is Karanam, remember that Karanam is substance, Karyam is Nama Rupam. And therefore, whenever you say Brahman is Karanam, you are actually saying that Brahman is the substance, the Upadana Karanam, and everything else is Nama Rupam. This is the understanding that you should have. Okay. Another point here is that the word Karanam, implies Vikaram, modification. For example, gold. It undergoes a modification to become the ornament. The bangle undergoes one modification. The ring, it undergoes another modification. Therefore, the word Karanam conveys a sense of Vikara, change, modification. But whenever you talk about Brahman as Jagat Karanam, you should not take this meaning of Vikara. Why? Because Upanishad defines Brahman as Nirvikara. And that is why when you say Brahman is Karanam, you say Brahman is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. You don't say just Upadana Karanam because Upadana Karanam can convey the meaning of Parinami Upadana Karanam, changing material cause. But you know Brahman doesn't change because Shruti says Brahman is Nirvikaraha. Therefore, Brahman has to be always understood as Vivarta Upadana Karanam. Even if you are just using the word Brahman is Karanam, Brahman is Upadana Karanam. Mentally, you should be very clear. Brahman is Vivarta Upadana Karanam, on changing material cause. Every other Upadana Karanam in the universe, remember, is Parinami Upadana Karanam. I'll just mute everybody. There is somebody still talking. Okay. Then you look at the next words. Tad Vijignyasasva Tad Brahma Iti. Okay. So Tad Vijignyasasva. You should desire to know that Brahman. And Shankara in his commentary says Tad Annadi Dvarena. Through the Panchakosha Viveka, you should understand. And therefore we have to ask the question, why does Varuna want to give the Panchakosha Viveka? So there are many commentators on this Shankara Bhashyam. Okay, so you have, I'm sure you know, there is a Bhashyam which is a commentary on the Upanishad. Then there are many sub-commentators. So there are many commentators, sub-commentators on the Shankara Bhashyam of Taitriya. So you have, for example, Anandagiri, very famous. Then you have Achyuta Krishna Tirtha, very famous again. And then you have Sureshwaracharya, again very famous. All these are all tikas, sub-commentaries on the Shankara Bhashyam. So you can imagine, if you really want to study in great depth, let us say this one mantra. So what do? Study the mantra, study Shankara Bhashyam, study Anandagiri Tika, study Achyuta Krishna Tika, and study Sureshwaracharya Tika. That itself will take you a good, 20 days. And what do these commentators say? They say that Upanishad talks about origination of the universe from Brahma. Right? Now the universe also includes Jiva. Is it not? Therefore, but Vedanta is very clear. Jiva is anadi. Jiva is never born. And therefore, how can Shruti say Yatova imani bhutani jayante? Because bhutani is referring to Jivatma. and Jivatma is Anadi. So is there not a contradiction here? What should be the answer?
Avyakta to Vyakta.
Sorry?
It is Jiva is Anadi, but from it becomes manifest.
Manifestation cannot be called Jayanti, no? What should it be? The answer is actually very obvious. In the Jiva, something is born. Actually born.
The physical, the
The body.
Exactly. So from the standpoint of the Aupadika Janma, the Upadis, the birth of the Upadis, you can say Yatova Imani Bhutani Jayante. But Jiva doesn't have Vastava Janma. He's doesn't have a real birth because he's never born. Why? Because he's Brahman. How can he be born? And therefore, since Brahman is the very tatparyam of all the jivas, the very essence of all the jivas, where should you go to look for Brahman? You needn't go anywhere. Your own body is sufficient. Your own Panchakosha is sufficient. And that is why Varuna is giving the Panchakosha teaching. He's saying, search for Brahman. Don't go on a Tirtha Yatra. Don't go to Himalayas. Go home, sit down. Search for Brahman in your own body. And how to search or where to search is given here. Sa tapo atapyata sa tapas taptva. Right? Sa tapo tapyata. After being taught this Vidya, Bhrigu performed tapas. What is the Vidya he got? He said the Brahma Lakshanam, the definition he got, the door, how to find Brahman. Brahma Upalabdhi Dwarani, said Shankara, right? The doorway to Brahman he found. He was taught. And Bhrigu did tapas. Now, if you look at it, between the mantra which says Tapasa Brahma, no, this says Tad Vijignyasasva, you should desire to know that Brahman, Tad Brahmeti, and that is Brahman iti. Right? Between that mantra and between Sa Tapo Tapyata, Bhrigu went and did tapas. Is there a missing link? Why did Bhrigu do tapas? Did Varuna tell him to do so? What is your answer to that? Shruti doesn't say. So the mantra doesn't say that you should go and do tapas. Varuna did not instruct Bhrigu to do tapas. Then why did Bhrigu go and do tapas? Very, very beautiful question, right? Now, to answer that question, what was the teaching that was given to Bhrigu by Varuna?
That these Panchakosha, the Brahman is not these Panchakoshas.
Yato va imani bhutani jayante yad jatani jivanti yad prayanti abhivishanti. Is the teaching. Is this Tatastha Lakshanam or is it Swarupa Lakshanam?
This we just said it is Tatastha.
Tatastha Lakshanam is Paroksha Jnanam or Aparoksha Jnanam.
Oh yes, it is Paroksha.
Therefore, the Jnanam is complete or incomplete.
So it is incomplete. So this tapas is referring to Nididhyasanam.
Right. So he was given only Paroksha Jnanam. And Tatastha Lakshanam, therefore, remember, can only give you Paroksha Jnanam. Only Swarupa Lakshanam, which comes from a Mahavakyam, can give you aparuksha jnanam. And therefore, Shankara says, therefore, Raghu, being a great sadhaka, he realized that sadhana was required. And therefore, he chooses tapas. And now Shankara says here, in his commentary, he says, tapas is ekagrata of the mind. Okay, in his commentary, Shankara is very brief, very cryptic. Tapas is ekagrata. And he doesn't expand further because he thinks that we are all very enlightened students. But his disciple, Sureshwaracharya, he knows, we are not all that smart. So Sureshwaracharya says that this tapas, which Shankara said is ekagrata, is actually focused attention on the upadesha given by the guru using the shastra, which is otherwise known as what? Focused attention on the upadesha given by the guru using the shastra,
Shravanam.
which is otherwise known as Shravana. Right? In fact, in Mahabharata, there is a there's a mantra which says there is a sloka which says Manaschendriyanam cha ekagryam param tapaha. The ekagrata of the indriyas and the mind is the greatest tapaha. And therefore, when he says tapo tapyataha, sa tapyataha tapaha, mantra is saying Bhrigu conducted an inquiry into Panchakosha. Mananam he did. And sa tapas taptva, having conducted the inquiry, tapaha taptva, having conducted the inquiry, he came to the following conclusion. Right? That is Shankara's commentary. At this, he came to the following conclusion. What is the following conclusion? It is the next Anuvaka. So, Rajniji, can you chant Anuvaka number 2?
Yes.
अन्नं ब्रह्मेति व्यजानात् अन्नाद्येव खल्विमानि भूतानि जायन्ते अन्नेन जातानि जीवन्ति अन्नं प्रयन्त्यभिसंविशन्तीति तद्विज्ञाय पुनरेव वरुणं पितरमुपससार अधीहि भगवो ब्रह्मेति तगुंहोवाच तपसा ब्रह्म विजिज्ञासस्व तपो ब्रह्मेति स तपोतप्यत स तपस्तप्त्वा.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So, remember, this is the conclusion that Bhrigu has come. Right? So, Bhrigu meditated on the Annamaya Kosha. For what purpose? He wants to know what is the Srishti, Sthiti, and Layakarana of the Annamaya Kosha. And what does he see? He sees all beings are born from Annam alone, are sustained by Annam alone, and they resolve into Annam alone. Therefore, he made a conclusion that Brahman is Annam. He says Annam is the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam for Annamaya Kosha, and therefore Brahman must be Annam. Right? So, why does he arrive at the conclusion? Because it fits the description, the Lakshanam given by Varuna, his father, his guru. And what is the description that is being mentioned here? Annat eva khalu. Khalu means indeed. Annat eva khalu imani bhutani jayante. So khalvimani has to be broken up into khalu imani. So the whole thing is annat eva khalu imani bhutani jayante, which means all beings, all annamaya koshas are indeed born from this annam alone. Annam alone is the Srishti Karanam for all the Annamaya Koshas, and therefore Annena Jatani Jivanti. And he also realized that all the Annamaya Koshas, the physical bodies, are alive, are sustained only because of Annam. Therefore, not only are they born from Annam, they are sustained by Annam. Therefore, not only are they Srishti Karanam, they are also Sthiti Karanam. And then Annam Prayanti Avivishanti Yati. He sees that all the bodies, physical bodies, they merge back into the Virat, into the Annam alone. And therefore, all the Annamaya koshas finally merge back into the earth, into Annam, Virat. And therefore, Annam is also the Laya Karanam. So, Prayanti can be taken as Prayana Kale, during the destruction. Right? So, Prayanti has to be understood in two ways. Prayanti, Abhivishanti. Abhivishanti is going back into. Prayanti is Prayana Kale. So, you have to understand in both ways. The Vyashti body, the micro bodies, resolve into Annam. Right? And the universe also resolves into Samashti Annam, which is called Virat. And therefore, Annam Brahmeti Vajanat. Therefore, he concluded that Annam alone is Brahman. And Tad Vijnaya. Having so made a conclusion, he decided that this is the conclusion. Right? Then Shankara adds, he was mentally summarizing. But then, when he was summarizing, he was an intelligent person, he was a great Maharishi. So he got a doubt. And this doubt is not mentioned in the mantra. Right? But Shankara says, what is that doubt? It is that Annam is not the ultimate Karanam. Annam is only Apekshika Karanam, intermediary Karanam. Why? Because whether you take Annam as Vyashti or Samashti, let us take Annam as Samashti for the purpose. So Samashti Annam is what? Virat. Virat, is it ultimate Karanam? No. But Virat itself is born. From whom? From Hiranyagarbha. Right? Therefore, Annam, which is gross matter, is a product with Annam Virat, is gross matter, physical universe. It has got a Karanam, which is the subtle universe, Samashti Sukshma Karanam, which is Hiranyagarbha.
Hello.
And therefore,
Good
Annam is
morning.
not,
Basanta.
and therefore, Annam is not Mula Karanam. The Mula Karanam is what? That which has itself no cause. Right? That is one. These are doubts which Shankara is saying that he got, that Bhrigu got. So one is this idea that Annam cannot be Mula Karanam because it itself has a cause. Then there is logic, Yukti Pramanam. Anything subject to a change is a product. Yat savikaram, tat karyam. That is a law. Anything which has vikara is always a product. And therefore, having this doubt, what happens? He goes back to his father. Punareva Varunam Pitaram Upasasara. He went back to his father. What did he say? Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Please teach me Brahman. And you have to imagine that he told him all that he has, all the Maranam that he did. And he said, I understood Annam to be the Annam to be Brahman because of the following reasons. Sthiti, Srishti and Laya. But I also had these doubts, both logical and otherwise. And therefore, I now think that I have not understood Brahman properly. Therefore, Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Please teach me Brahman. Right? And then he says, Tapasa Brahma Vijignasasva. You should go to and seek to know Brahman. Go and try to know Brahman. And remember that Tapaha Brahma iti. Tapaha itself is Brahman, which means that more mananam is required for you. So essentially, he's saying that go and inquire more because your inquiry is not complete. So you can see that in every anuvaka, one word appears again and again. That is tapaha. Right? In the previous anuvaka, it was there. In this anuvaka, it is there. In the next one, also it is there. And therefore, Shankara clarifies that This repetition is for the purpose of pointing out that the only means of understanding Brahman is inquiry. Inquiry into Shastra, inquiry into Atma. And then Shankara adds a very important point. Yavat jignasa na nivartate. It's a very, very beautiful line. Yavat jignasa na nivartate. Until the intellectual curiosity. Jignasa means Brahma jignasa, the desire to understand Brahman. Na nivartate has not gone away. Tavat tapaha eva sadhana. Until the desire goes away. And when will the desire go away for a particular object? When that object has been attained. Therefore, until you understand Brahman is tavat tapa eva te sadhana. Until then, the inquiry is the only sadhana. And therefore, you should go and do more inquiry. Therefore, what happened? Satapodapyataha. Bhrigu went back and did more maranam. And satapastaptava. And having done the maranam, he came to another conclusion, a more refined conclusion. And what is the conclusion? It is given in the next Anuvaka, which I will request Rajniji to chant.
प्राणो ब्रह्मेति व्यजानात् प्राणाद्येव खल्विमानि भूतानि जायन्ते प्राणेन जातानि जीवन्ति प्राणं प्रयन्त्यभिसंविशन्तीति तद्विज्ञाय पुनरेव वरुणं पितरमुपससा अधीहि भगवो ब्रह्मेति तगुं होवाच तपसा ब्रह्म विजिज्ञासस्व तपो ब्रह्मेति स तपोतप्यत स तपस्तप्त्वा.
Thank you, Rajniji. So as you can see, it's almost identical to the last Anuvaka. The inquiry is done in the exactly the same method. And so Shankara in his commentary Shankara is very brief, right? So Shankara in his commentary simply says this is exactly the same as the previous Anuvaka and doesn't offer any more comments. In fact, he doesn't offer any more comments upon the next three Anuvakas because they're all exactly the same. So what is it? Prana deva khalu imani bhutani jaya. Having dropped the Annamaya Kosha as not being Brahman, he goes to the next Kosha, which is Pranamaya Kosha. He says the same things. Pranena jatani jevanti. All beings are sustained because of prana. Pranam prayanti abhisamshantiti. All beings resolve into prana on pralayam. Therefore, prana brahmeti vyajana. Hence, prana is Brahman. Thus, vijnaya. And having concluded thus, he goes. So, what is this? He keeps the pranamaya kosha. He takes up the pranamaya kosha and asks the question. What is the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam of Pranamaya Kosha? What is it? It is the Samashti Prana, right? Samashti Prana is the Srishti Karanam, the Sthiti Karanam, the Laya Karanam of all Jivas, of all Pranamaya Koshas. And therefore he concludes that Prana Tattvam is Brahman. So Prana is subtler than Annamaya. And therefore Bhrigu thinks that Pranamaya Kosha is the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam. Remember here we are talking about Samashti, right? Because when we say Annamaya Kosha is the Brahman is Annamaya Kosha, remember it is not the micro Annamaya Kosha, it is a macro Annamaya Kosha, the Samashti Annamaya Kosha, which we call Virat. And similarly here, it is not the Vyashti Pranamaya Kosha, it is the Samashti Pranamaya Kosha, which we call Hiranyagarbha. Right? And therefore he applies the same logic, and therefore he comes to the conclusion that Samashti Pranamaya Kosha, Hiranyagarbha, is Brahman. And then again, he thinks about it. He does some more maranam. He is not satisfied. And therefore, Punareva Varunam Pitaram Upasasara. He decided to go back to his father and he gave the whole story that, Dad or Guruji or Lord Vigovaha. I went there. I first did the Annamaya Kosha. I thought it was Brahman. I came to you. You said it is not. So I went back. I did more Mananam on the next Kosha, which is Pranamaya Kosha. Then finally I thought, yes, this is Pranamaya Kosha is Brahman. Then I had some more doubts. And therefore I think I'm still wrong. And therefore, Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Please teach me Brahman, O Bhagwan. And Tam Hovacha. To that, Bhrigu, who said, Varuna, his father said, Tapasa Brahma Vijignyasasva. You should seek to know Brahman. And Tapaha Brahmeti. Remember that Tapaha itself is Brahman. Which means what? You have not done sufficient mananam. More mananam is required. Therefore, Bhrigu went back. Satapotapyataha. He did more mananam. Satapastaptva. And having done the mananam, he came to a conclusion. And what is the conclusion? It is in the next Anuvaka, the fourth Anuvaka, which we will take up in the next session. Any questions?
Om sir, just
Yeah.
a thought in my mind. This here the importance of tapas or inquiry is given. When we in Chandogya, Shvetaketu is given experiments like water, salt in water. So,
Sukadeva was first given the jnana.
jnana, and
And
then he
then
was
they were given a practical aspect of it.
water, the salt in the water, and the
Yeah.
seed, banyan tree. So different
So,
way.
different students, different methods.
Yeah, right. Indra and Virochana also, I think, which we will do later, is like this, isn't it? Like a body. Thank you.
Okay, so with this we'll stop for today. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Tat Sat, Om
Om
Namah
Tat Sat,
Shivaya.
Om